A velvet rope snapped across her chest. "Not here," the manager sneered, his voice sharp enough to slice through the music. The crowd inside laughed and sipped champagne, while she stood outside, judged only by the color of her skin. To him, she was nobody. Just another face to block, but in less than 10 minutes, the truth would silence him. Tell us in the comments. Have you ever been dismissed before they even knew who you really were? Before we begin, hit subscribe. It's appreciated. It was supposed to be a night of celebration. Alicia Monroe had worked for years building her career, her business, and her reputation. By day, she was the kind of woman who handled million-dollar contracts with a steady hand, the type of leader who kept her calm when others lost theirs. But that evening, she wanted nothing more than to relax, to enjoy music, laughter, and the company of friends inside one of the city's most exclusive lounges. The streets of downtown pulsed with neon lights as her driver dropped her off at the glowing entrance. Luxury cars lined the curb, their engines purring like statements of wealth. Alicia stepped out in a sleek black dress, her head held high, but her presence was quiet, unassuming. She didn't need to flaunt her power, it spoke for itself even when others didn't see it. Inside, the VIP section was buzzing with celebrities, executives, and socialites. Alicia wasn't new to this world, yet she always felt the subtle sting of eyes that measured her before they knew her. Too often it was her skin that entered the room before her name ever did. That night, she was ready to brush it off, to focus on the celebration. But as she approached the velvet rope that separated the ordinary from the elite, she noticed the way the manager's jaw tightened. His eyes scanned her once, dismissive, as if he had already made his decision before she even spoke. Alicia smiled, extending her invitation with quiet confidence. What she didn't know was that within minutes, this small exchange at the rope would spiral into a moment she'd never forget. A moment that would expose the ugly face of racism in one of the city's most glamorous spaces. If you were in Alicia's place, blocked from a place you rightfully belonged, what would you do? The rope didn't budge. The manager's hand pressed firmly against it, his eyes narrowing with the kind of superiority that comes from years of unchecked power. "This section is reserved," he muttered, not even glancing at the invitation Alicia held out. Around her, people streamed past effortlessly. White men in tailored suits, women dripping in diamonds. None of them questioned, none of them stopped. Alicia stood frozen for a moment, heat rising in her chest. She had been here before. Not this club, not this exact rope, but this feeling. The sting of being seen as less, as though her skin erased every accomplishment, every hour of work, every sacrifice that had led her to this point. She tried again, her voice calm, professional. "I have a reservation." The manager finally looked at her, not with respect, but with disdain. "Not tonight," he said flatly, turning away to wave through another couple without even checking their names. The laughter from inside grew louder, the clink of glasses sharper, each sound cutting deeper into Alicia's composure. A group nearby whispered, eyes flicking toward her, their smirks feeding off her humiliation. It wasn't just exclusion, it was a performance, a public dismissal meant to remind her she didn't belong. Her friends, already seated inside, texted asking where she was. But Alicia couldn't bring herself to reply. To admit what was happening felt like admitting defeat. She thought of all the times she had worked twice as hard to prove her worth, only to be met with locked doors and suspicious eyes. Tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight she had earned her place, minutes stretched like hours. The manager crossed his arms, standing tall like a gatekeeper guarding a kingdom. Alicia felt the weight of every eye on her, the unspoken question. Would she walk away quietly, or would she dare to resist? She could feel her pulse quickening, her body caught between fight and flight. Memories flashed, teachers doubting her potential, colleagues overlooking her, strangers clutching their bags tighter when she walked by. Each one was a reminder, the rope wasn't just velvet. It was history, prejudice, and arrogance woven together to hold her back. And yet, deep inside, Alicia knew something the manager didn't. Something that would turn this entire scene on its head. He thought he was blocking just another face in the crowd. What he didn't know was that the woman he had dismissed held more power in this room than anyone else behind that rope. Would she stay silent and let the insult pass? Or would she show him exactly who he had tried to humiliate? The air grew heavy as Alicia tightened her grip on the small clutch in her hand. She had tried patience. She had tried grace. But now, humiliation boiled into something sharper: resolve. The manager's back was turned, his arrogance on full display as he ushered in another laughing group. To him, she was invisible, a shadow he had already dismissed. But Alicia wasn't invisible. She was the storm he didn't see coming. She reached inside her clutch and pulled out a small, polished card holder. The metallic snap echoed like thunder in her ears. From it, she slid out a single badge, sleek, gleaming, unmistakable. The crest of ownership engraved on its surface, the badge that said she wasn't just another guest. She was the woman who signed the paychecks, who held the very lease on this glittering lounge. When the manager turned back, his smirk froze. His eyes locked on the badge, disbelief flickering across his face. The crowd nearby leaned in, their curiosity sparking like wildfire. Within seconds, whispers rippled. "She owns this place." Alicia didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The silence that fell was louder than any shout. With calm precision, she stepped forward, lifted the rope herself, and walked into the VIP section. The same people who had watched her humiliation now watched her ascend with quiet authority. The manager's face drained of color, his arrogance crumbling into panic. In that moment, the balance of power flipped, and every sneer, every dismissive glance he had, given her shattered under the weight of truth. Now, the question wasn't whether Alicia belonged. It was whether he would survive the consequences of treating the owner like a stranger. What do you think happens next? Does she fire him on the spot? Or let him drown in his own shame? A hush lingered as Alicia settled into her seat, the badge now resting quietly on the table beside her glass. The entire VIP section had shifted. Eyes that once dismissed her now followed with reverence, even unease. The same manager who had blocked her at the door stood frozen, his arrogance stripped bare. Every second of silence pressed heavier on his chest, each one a reminder of the mistake that could cost him everything. But Alicia didn't lash out. She didn't need to. Instead, she called over a senior staff member with calm authority and simply said, "He doesn't represent this establishment anymore." The message was clear. Disrespect had a cost. The manager's shoulders slumped as security escorted him out, the crowd stunned into silence. For Alicia, it wasn't about revenge. It was about respect. Too many times she had seen people like him use their position to humiliate others, certain that power shielded them from accountability. Tonight she proved that true power doesn't shout. It stands tall, reveals itself at the right moment, and changes everything. As the night carried on, Alicia sipped her drink, the laughter and music finally washing over her as they should have from the beginning. But she knew this wasn't just her story. This was a story lived by countless others, people whose worth had been questioned before their voices were even heard. So let me ask you, how many more times will people be judged by the color of their skin before the world learns the truth about who really belongs? Tell us in the comments, show some love with a like, and subscribe to stay inspired.